As you talk about the quarterback situation, just mentally for kids, the idea of you've talked about not wanting someone looking over their shoulder, feeling like they're going to get yanked. Mentally, why is that important, and what kind of conversations do you have with Grayson about that?
For us, it's about the executing of the plays that our coordinators are asking these young men to do, and Grayson feels comfortable in what he's doing. He is the best at doing what we're asking our quarterbacks to do at this point. And as long as guys are competing and contributing in the ways that show that they can do the things we're asking, then no one's looking over their shoulder. They're all competing, and actually they're all doing quite a pretty good job of it.
To this point in camp, have you seen the benefits of a second year under two new systems, offense, defense, and I guess special teams? And if so, where?
Probably the biggest change or the pleasant surprise has been the fact that I see the players out there executing their assignments better. It's the benefit of having, again, as you alluded to, the same coordinators, the schemes and the systems. But I believe that the players that we have that are performing, the assigned task or performing in a way that will give us a chance to produce on the field. And the bottom line for that is producing on offense by scoring points, and then on defense getting turnovers and keeping the other teams from scoring. So it's been positive to see the players on the film executing the things that we know that can allow them to be successful on the field.
Mike, can you update us on the offensive tackle positions and who you have left and right and why you made those decisions?
With 4 practices in the books right now, so to speak, and the 5th to be done today, we've had the opportunities to look at various alignments as far as young men having a chance to play out there at the tackle position. There's a different perspective from a left tackle and a right tackle. We put Connor Davis out there. Sadiq Olawanju has been there. Eric Smith has been there. So we're still in the process of evaluating where each player fits, in particular to the skill set that's required. The right tackle is a guy that is not necessarily like as a left tackle is, because he's the guy that protects the quarterback's blind side. But I feel that the players that we have there and the rotation that we have right now is one that will help us solidify where we'll go forward after Saturday's scrimmage.
Coach, Anthony Harris had such a good season last year. Can you talk about the benefits of having him back and just what he means to this team as you guys go for this turnaround this year?
Anthony is a phenomenal young man. He is a captain, as we all know, an All-American. He's a leader on the field, and he's an extension of Coach Tenuta in terms of the schemes. He's constantly communicating to all the other players, and he's a selfless player. And those are some attributes that makes Anthony, an outstanding individual, and I believe one of the best safeties in the country.
Mike, a couple guys have been battling turf toe, Trey and Andrew Brown. How close are they to being medically cleared to participate in everything you're doing?
Well, there's a certain level that they are cleared to participate right now. Both of them are going through individual and limited other team aspects. But for them to get completely cleared, that'll be up to our doctors and consultation with the players themselves. But we want to make sure that when they do come back and they're participating fully, that they're able to to excel in what we're asking them to do. So right now we're happy with where they are, and they're both are progressing nicely, and they're out there with their teammates, and that's the biggest thing. That's good to have them both back.
Mike, at the end of the spring anyway, Smoke was sort of number 2 running back, and you were playing him in the slot and return and thinking about him in the return game, and now you have him healthy in the preseason. Is it safe to say he's kind of the guy that you were looking for last year as a playmaker, and now maybe he's that guy who got pegged for that role, or is the jury still out?
We have a lot of really good players, and obviously Taekwon is a guy that can do a lot of things, whether it's in a kicking game or whether he's in a slot receiver position or at the running back position. And I believe he's special, and he will get every opportunity to help this team win. and he's ready for the challenge. He ran track this spring, gotten faster, he's gotten bigger, stronger. So he, along with other players that are ready to produce now, will have the opportunity to get on the field and do that. So Smoke, as he's nicknamed, is a young man that's matured, and he's ready for a great challenge this year, and I believe he'll have a good year.
Mike, one of the I guess negative things about last season was, well, first of all, you created 21 turnovers, only had 13 points off of it. What do you do? Do you do any specific drill, anything to try to increase that number, take advantage of those takeaways more than you did last year?
You know, as I said, the biggest thing that I've seen, the biggest difference has been a positive, is the execution of what we're asking the players to do, and that's practice habits, that's going after the football, that's all those things are entailed. I believe that the players we have, as I said before, that are performing those tasks are going to allow us to be a better defense, allow us to get those turnovers. And in the end, ultimately, it's about the production. And I believe that this season and thus far has shown itself, you know, in spring practice and in early parts of camp, that the productive part of what this defense can do is something that I've seen on field right now. And turnovers and keeping points down are those issues. And I've seen that so far.
Hey, Mike, you talked about in the spring creating kind of a hybrid position that Jake was going to play. After he decided to leave, did that cause you to change your plan for that position, or can Zach do what you were hoping Jake would do in that position?
Well, I believe it's not just what Zach can do. If you look at our receiving core now, there is some height, you know, to that group collectively, and not just the hybrid position there, but also, you know, another receiver, another tall size receiver. And with, you know, you can go down the list and look at the, you know, kind of the height and the of the receivers that we do have, that they fill that role nicely. And we've continued on with that. We've put it into our offensive scheme. We're continuing to identify, you know, those players that can, you know, help us and fulfill those roles. But I feel good about where we are with that. And I like the receiving core, and I like the versatility that we have, not just with Zach Swanson, but Andre Leverone, Kanan Severin, Kyle Dawkins, Keon Johnson. All those guys are size receivers that can play that position.
When you look at freshmen like Blanding and Brown, is there a big difference in your mind based on what position they play? We always hear the closer to the ball you are, the harder it is. Does the position make a big difference on how hard it is for a true freshman to play?
That's very true. It's very true. And I believe that when you have young men that have a skill set, and obviously both are very talented, we have a lot of talented players on this team, but particularly with the linemen up front, you know, there's a physical aspect of them playing, and most times they're playing against, you know, other, you know, juniors, seniors, fifth-year seniors, but the physical aspect, the strength aspect of it, you know, does cause itself to lend that maybe they may get redshirted. The further back that they are, and you're talking about Quinn Blanding or a player like his ability or that position, it's more of a skill set of being an athletic and open, running in open space and covering and things like that. So there is a difference, and my philosophy is when they're ready, we're ready to play them. When their skill set shows that they can handle, to me, what's important also are the rigors of the academic challenges that will be facing them. But we're confident about the freshmen or the first years that do play this year, that we will put them through a process that says they're ready, we're ready, they can handle the academic challenges, the social challenges, and then we'll move forward with them.
Mike, you guys over here, you guys were among the national leaders last year in time of possession, and I'm assuming most teams outside of maybe Oregon would view that as a positive. Do you view that? Do you draw any positives out of that, or is it kind of frustrating that it didn't produce better results as much as you had the ball in relation to your opponents?
The production part, is, as I said before, is, you know, it's great to execute, it's great to have the ball, but if you don't produce, if you don't have points coming out of that, then, you know, that's a statistic that obviously is not in our favor. So our focus is on the executing of the offense. I believe the players that we have performing what we're asking to do are better this year for us, and I believe that the production element of that will show itself to be true, that if you hang on to the ball, then it's important that you get points, and one of the functions of an offense is scoring points.
like one of your colleagues in the ACC on background, not for attribution, was talking to one of the preseason magazines and described Henry as arguably the best linebacker returning in the ACC. How have you seen his progress over the year, and where do you see him right now?
Henry is a prototypical middle linebacker that has the mentality of being a tough, physical, aggressive player, and not to forget that he's also a two-time All-Academic ACC performer in the classroom. He is as Anthony Harris is. He is an extension of Coach Sununu as far as the linebackers are concerned in getting the defense lined up. I've seen Henry's progression from the maturity standpoint, his weight room numbers. Obviously, his academic accolades speak for itself. But he's another guy that's an older guy on this team that's a leader. And players will follow leaders that have demonstrated performance in the classroom and on the field. And having Henry on our team is a huge plus for us. And I expect great things for Henry this season because he is a type of player that can have an excellent year.
Mike, when Anthony Harris said he was coming back, he said one of his reasons was he remembers you sticking with him in the recruiting process when he got hurt his junior year. Can you kind of take us back to that? What was that like? And sticking with him through that injury, and what did you see in him that you thought he could overcome and be an impact player for you?
I'm always a big believer that people don't care about how much you know till they know about how much you care. And that's an off-the-field thing that can also translate to an on-the-field tenet. And I believe in the players. I believe in their opportunities to become educated men here at University of Virginia, but also believe in their abilities to be successful on the field. And Anthony has stuck with it, has done everything we've asked him. And any player knows that if you do the things that I've asked you to do and the coaches have asked you to do and what this school requires, then I'm behind you 100%. And I appreciate the fact that Anthony echoed those sentiments. But it's important to have guys like Anthony Harris that can point to the things that why they're here and why they stay and what's important to them. And Anthony Harris is, as I said before, I've characterized him as a great young man, a leader for our team.
Coach, obviously, I know you guys are always trying to turn the page and look forward, but is it important to kind of remember how last year felt for them as a motivational tactic or anything? And along those lines, is there a sense of pressure that comes from that?
The motivation is August 30th, playing UCLA. The motivation is getting better, executing, performing, production. The motivation is, we're not satisfied with what happened last season. We don't talk about last season because we know the challenges that are ahead of us now. And so the motivation is to get better, become a team that can execute the things that, we're asking them to do, to have the players that I believe that can perform in those system and functions, and then now the production on the field. And that's what's relevant, and that's what's pertinent right now.
Hey, Mike, the offense you started with last year had a dual threat quarterback and primary receivers were kind of on the small side, and you've talked about all these big guys that you have now and are kind of working into the mix. You also have a big arm quarterback who's not real mobile. He's not really a dual threat. How much different will the offense be this year than last year just because of those components?
Well, the offense is still very much intact in terms of the mentality of what we want to get done. I believe what we have now are older players at those positions that there are more options. And so, as you allude to, David is a dual threat guy that can run, and probably Grayson would probably disagree with you on that characterization of his skills. But at the same time, I believe we have enough players surrounding Grayson that we can use their athletic ability. And so what you'll see is a system that's very, very similar, very consistent. But at the same time, you'll see more opportunities for other players to make the kind of plays that we need in order to be productive.
Hey, Mike, you mentioned Anthony Harris staying, how meaningful that is. I'm curious, when guys like that are sticking around the program, when you're getting a top recruit like you did this week, is it more meaningful and just in general how the program has continued to sort of move forward after last season. Is it more meaningful given what has taken place, whether it be in the media, whatever? Is it more meaningful given the challenges you've sort of faced here over since last season ended?
It's meaningful in the fact that I'm 100% committed to these players, to this university, to the success of this football program. And it's meaningful when players can then see that type of commitment and then in turn reciprocate that type of effort and commitment. And as you alluded to, this is a great university with great academic opportunities. At the same time, the reason why a lot of players want to come is because of the message, because of the opportunities, and because of players like Anthony Harris. I mean, there's no secret that when other players say they want to come, it's just not everything that we like to think it is all the time. It's about some of the players that are already here, that are already there, and say, you know what, you need to come. And Anthony is a prime example of a young man that has experienced success, adversity, all those things. And now, as I said, he has a chance to be known as one of the best safeties in college football before it's all said and done.
I mean, more from you. Is it just me? I mean, is it reassuring?
I'm in it for the players. I'm in it for the players' development. There's my personal goals are to make sure that they become educated men, that because one day they'll be husbands, fathers, employees, employers much longer than they'll be a football player. And if I can do my job in that part and win games, but I feel more secure and align my priorities in what I just told you that I think is important. If those things can happen, then I'm satisfied with what I've done. And I'll continue to keep trying to make sure these young men understand that there's a bigger picture, that's out there than just the three letters NFL.
Coach, last year you adopted a more pressure-based defense with Coach Tenuta. Is there a big transition for maybe a defensive player going from maybe a less, where you're dictating play as before, where maybe you weren't dictating as much? Is there a large transition for those guys to adjust? And now in a second year, is that adjustment going to be much easier for them to that more aggressive style of play?
Going back to being able to execute, it's knowing that you know. And what I've seen thus far in the practices and coming out of spring practice is there are more players that know that they know because they know what's being asked of them. And when you see that, you play faster. When you play faster, a lot of things happen for you. The turnovers, and you create the mismatches that you want. And when those things happen, then it can lead to the production of less points. And so what I've seen thus far is I've seen a group of individuals, particularly the players that played last year in this scheme and system, I've seen them really rise to the challenge of playing fast and having fun too. I don't want to forget about this whole notion of, I know it's important and you got to have the execution and the performance, but want to bring the fun back into this as well. We all understand the importance of the games we play and the significance of this season, but we want to have fun in doing it as well. And what I see out there, I see guys having fun, but they're learning and they're executing at the same time.
We're going to have our last question in this session from Norm, and then we'll have Coach Fairchild.
Mike, you mentioned 3 weeks ago in Greensboro that the possibility at least existed for a red shirt for Dominique Terrell. What's his status and what's your plan with him?
Norm, it's still an ongoing evaluation of where he is. I know he looks good out there in terms of what he's doing physically, but still with him and talking to our people about where he should go and what we should do with him is still kind of an ongoing evaluation of it. So I would say that we would, with 21 days left before we play UCLA, that decision of what to do with him will be made here fairly quickly.